Good evening, gearheads. Welcome to your Sunday night with Speed City. We're getting close to the end of the year. We just got one more show. We're not going to do one on New Year's Eve. We're going to do one on Christmas Eve. And but thanks everybody for tuning in. It's John Massengale.
Come on, man.
Got Jonathan Green sitting across from me, and we're going to have some fun tonight. We have lots to talk about because we're going to have a gentleman, a guest from Circuit of the Americas, Brad Epstein, not Bobby, brother Brad, and because he's in charge of the T11 condos.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I want to see where they're at, and I'm just excited about this whole project. I mean, condos at COTA, count me in.
Yeah, and, we'll get into the serious side of it, but it's the one thing I can tell you, having seen so many tracks over the years, that without, you cannot survive on just Formula One and and hoping that people will come to your track days or whatever.
Yeah, and I know that there is there is a ton of stuff going on there. Remember how the old days, during the week and for weeks and months at a time, there would be dead out at COTA. So yeah, it was sorry, we got some technical issues here. Hold on. I think that's probably mine, Johnny
Okay.
Green. All right, sorry. Anyway, we're just talking about how COTA has lots of different revenue streams because
I was about to say that's the key to a good circuit, and it's taken them a while, and naturally it would. But when you think about Silverstone, you can go there and there can be 3 or 4 different events going on any given Tuesday at Silverstone, so they do not just rely on MotoGP and Formula One coming. There is so much going on. Track days, schools.
Track days, yep.
And now COTA's doing exactly the same, but they're going in different directions. The condos, great idea, because a lot of circuits actually just go down that route, which is they don't have FIA spec circuits, so they get investment from those condos or from people who want a piece of the track, and in return they get to use the track, which I'm sure Brad will either tell us or not tell us, but that is usually part of the arrangement. I've heard it's the same here at COTA, but that is generally speaking, a lot of the tracks in New Zealand that I go to are that way organized, whereby the front straight is all condos at the back and garages underneath. And therefore, by buying one of those condos, you get a chance to have X number of track days, and sort of preferential seats for the big events.
I know we called Dave O'Neill, tried to get him on the show, but I know they were doing track days. S's Racing is out there. My son's out there doing track days. So, I even just clicked on there. We've got a little webcam, weather cam kind of thing, and the whole paddock was full of cars.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff goes on there. I got a message from Steve Martin the other day saying some people were from Australia that he knew were going to come and do the 8 hours of COTA, and I was like, I never heard of it. But that's fine.
Yep. Well, we got lots to talk about, Jonathan. We're going to talk some Formula One stories, and there's a few other periphery stories that we'll talk about. And of course, like I said, we got Brad Epstein coming on, but let's talk a little bit about. Well, first, the biggest news this week probably was their Alpha team renaming themselves the Stake F1 Kick Sauber.
Yep.
We'll get into that a little bit too, but yeah, that's a good compromise for them right now until Audi comes in 2026.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of 2-year thing where they're going to be called Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. It's a bit of a mouthful, I have to be honest, but I get it. And I'm wondering, when I read this, like you say, they're going to become the Audi team, but I wonder whether we're going to see more of that. And it's similar. We mentioned this, before, in that what I think will happen more and more in Formula One, especially down at the lower end, and you see it a little bit with MoneyGram in Haas, but a bit like if I was going to give you the parallel of naming rights for a stadium in NFL, so it's the AT&T Stadium or the Made Stadium or the blah blah blah, and I think that because now we are looking at these teams as franchises, you are going to potentially get that the Apple. The Apple Mercedes team or the Cisco McLaren team or whatever. And you could almost say if you didn't know what Formula One was all about and you tuned into a race and saw the team leading at the front, you'd say it's the Oracle team.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, there's a bull on the side of it, but you may not be
Yeah.
you may not be out clubbing and drinking Red Bull every night. But you know what I'm saying. So and Oracle have done that with, if you look at sailing, it is Team USA BMW or Team Oracle or Team, so I think we could be going that way with Formula One, and this is exactly that. Stake F1 Team Kicker is two big sponsors that they have.
Well, and you remember the rumors about the AlphaTauri team being named the Racing Bulls?
That's right, yeah.
So we could have that happen too, and
yep.
I mean, that's got a little easier ring to it.
A little easy to say, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Crofty going, oh, the Stake F1 Kick Team Sauber. Oh, boom.
Yeah, hard to do that in anger.
Mm-hmm.
But like all of them, they won't do it that way. So, let's see. What else, Greeny? Ferrari announced their launch February 13th.
Yep, that's quite early. But in the new scheme of things, it's not. February 20th, which is my birthday. Please, answers on a postcard. Please, nothing too big. Porsche, roof Porsche will do fine. They're earlier, but there is that crossover between, you can't do it January 10th because the car's not there or not ready. Most of these launches now don't actually show you the physical new car. For two reasons. One, they don't want to give away all the espionage and all the
what most importantly, it's probably not ready.
It's probably not ready, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Hey, I like this story. Max Verstappen is going to start his year off
in therapy?
Well, he might after
Elvis school.
He'll need therapy after writing a check for 1.2
for his super
million pounds, euros, because of the way they do the structuring for their super license.
I think that's ridiculous.
That's crazy. Of course, for Max to write a check for 1.2 million euros is probably not a problem.
Yeah, but it's just, how can you start a season on the back foot? I mean, this is your greatest asset, supposedly, and you're gonna penalize him?
Yeah,
for the privilege.
So at the opposite end of the
I'd
spectrum,
say no. I'd say I'm not bothered then this year. I'll just take away. I'll take it. Can't afford that. I got a really expensive girlfriend.
Hey, Max, he does that probably. I've seen her. She looks expensive.
Yeah, she's a PK.
On the other end of the spectrum, you know how much Logan Sargent's fee is? Only $12,500. No millions, no hundreds, just 12.5.
Hello, is that James Fowles? Yeah. This Sargent kid, get rid of him. I've got 12 grand. I'm ready to go. The Speed City entry is in.
Yeah, we don't think we have anybody on the team that's ready to contest. But
nah.
I just thought that was crazy.
Medland? That's not true.
No, that's true.
Shout out to Medland.
I forgot, yeah.
I think we should. It is the end of the year. People don't know this. He won the Journalists Karting Championship this year, which was held evidently at 3 venues, several races.
Yeah.
And evidently the winner of it gets to drive a Formula One car. Now, is this for real?
It sounds like it. He sounded like he was not kidding around.
Well, can I apply, and all of us apply, to be pit reporters when he gets out the car?
God, no kidding. Yeah. Let's see what time we got. You know what? Let's go ahead and take our break, because when we come back, hopefully we'll have Mr. Brad Epstein with us, and he'll talk about the T11 condos at Circuit of the Americas. Back after these messages. All right, we're still live on YouTube, Facebook. It's quiet out there tonight. Everybody's watching football, or we didn't do any posting, any tweeting or anything. But let's look at what we got else, Jonathan, on T11 condos. What else?
Have you got any? Are you quite clued up on this? I'm not.
Oh,
I mean, I know what they are and all that.
Honestly, about as much as you can be, because
it's not a lot out there.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get him on, because I was like, hey, this is too cool.
So, yeah, there's a lot of availability in the larger units. Most of the smaller ones, because look.
Well, that makes sense, right?
See, look.
Yep.
Would you agree with me that those are filled and these aren't?
Yeah, I'm assuming. Yes, and I'm assuming to you too, Jonathan. And also there's future. There's also there's the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 thing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about.
I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. While we're waiting to talk to Brad Epstein about the T11 condos at COTA, Jonathan, you put something in the doc, an IndyCar story that I...
Don't hold me to those.
The IndyCar still developing a charter system that was
I mean,
Racer.com. Marshall Pruitt's story, yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting in that I hadn't really thought about this, but it's almost, you could argue, if we've been talking franchises, and I know they're not officially franchises in Formula One, but basically they're talking about making a charter system so that effectively, a bit like Formula One and certainly like the NFL, that instead of if you give up, if AJ Foyt says right, that's it, or the old man goes up into the clouds, Larry Foyt might say, well, I'm done with this. We're not very competitive. But there's no system whereby the only value they really have are the cars and the equipment and the mechanics. And of course, as soon as you stop racing, those guys go to other teams and whatever.
And the cars themselves could potentially be not very valuable,
Well, they are valuable to another team, perhaps. But
it depends on where they are in a cycle and all that. So,
but so I think the idea, anyway, is, as far as I read into it, is that effectively it would create a system, a charter system that would basically bring value. I mean, Indy's in a different situation in that Penske owns the series and owns a team, and also owns a franchise, funnily enough, in NASCAR.
Yeah,
because he races in NASCAR. But, since its formation in 2005, Indy's Leaders Circle has functioned as the only business link between the series and its teams, where all 22 cars in the series are entrants into the leader system. And so they're just trying to look at the idea, and it's not in place yet, but, making it more of a Leaders Circle membership. That's what Mark Miles was talking about in this particular story. And I just thought it's something that we might find ourselves talking about more next season. And it makes sense, too.
Yep.
Despite the fact that Formula One's going, gonzo here in the States, Indy's not doing bad either, I mean, all boats rise. There's no question that Indy has got a fantastic talent pool. The TV's good. The racing is excellent.
Right.
The talent is very good. The fact that we're talking about, Formula One stars either coming to Indy, like Alonso has, or ex-Formula One stars like, Rossi did and Ericsson has done, are now becoming household names in Indy is a good thing. And the fact that young drivers like Marcus Armstrong, who were in the Ferrari Academy and in F2, but suddenly found that their rise to the next job. I mean, Ferrari, I would hate to be a Ferrari Academy driver. Schwartzman's the only one really that ever gets talked about, and he is getting good seat time. But the rest, and that included Fittipaldi at one point, but Armstrong, many, many others, there's just nowhere to go. Sainz and Leclerc are not going anywhere. So why would you want to be on the Ferrari Junior program when really you'd have to wait 5 years for an opportunity? I mean, okay, you could possibly get into a Haas team because they're connected to Ferrari and Alfa Romeo and so on and so forth. But, it makes it harder and harder. And I think that's been the downfall of all of these academies, is that there's really not enough seats to fill.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I do agree with everything you said about Indy, and it is, I think that the way F1 decided to do this, it was very intentional. If you go back and look at what Chase Carey and all the F1 executives talked about years ago, was that there was this, I don't think they used the word franchise.
No, they don't.
They used, even back then they were using things like investment and building, and they've achieved it exactly.
I said this when the it's that famous return on ROI. Since Formula One did two things, did the cost cap, right, and also since they started getting the likes of Doralton Capital and McLaren were doing what they were doing, suddenly they've become investments where you can effectively say, okay, if you put an investment in this team, the most they can spend is 150 million in terms of actually going racing. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the cost cap, right? So that's fungible. That's understandable, right? But if you come first in the championship, you will get X. If you come second. So as an investor, this is a much better prospect than it would be for a lot of other businesses stroke ideas that you might be an investor in. So my point is, you're getting involved in a sport and a business which has almost got not guarantees, but obvious payouts that you can see and deliver on. So you can say, okay, well, if I get 7th place, well, I'm going to get this return, and I'm going to spend this much for sure, if not more. And so the point is, you can look at it as a potential future investment and go, well, gosh, if we just did a bit more investment here, if we want Alonso and we want Hamilton as our drivers, then sure, let's put 100 million into that idea, because that might move us up to a higher position, and that payout could be much quicker than the turnaround. I know that was a bit left-handed description of it, but it's a rough idea of what I'm talking about. So in other words, Formula One finally has a return on investment that is feasible and showable.
Yeah, and look, like you said, Doralton, the concept has now been proven.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Well, and also look at the way that the Hollywood A-game listers and sports guys, from boxers to Rory McIlroy, the golfer, another one by Ryan Reynolds and his mate, Mr. McElhaney.
Yep.
These guys are now putting big money into Formula One teams. I can't think that Ryan Reynolds had any interest in Alpine Formula One, a French team with 2 French drivers. Yeah. But when he looks at it as an investment, then it does make a lot of sense.
Man, I can't wait to see more marketing from Ryan Reynolds. Have you seen how fantastic his marketing is? He does that Mint Mobile.
Mint Mobile, yeah.
But did you see the ad that he did with Dak Prescott from the Cowboys?
Yeah.
We can't say the words they were talking about because it's for colonoscopies. Anyway, he's just doing a fantastic job. And, And he, if he could put some of that marketing magic for those guys, it would be very powerful.
He is a bit of a phenom, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's no question. He's got a lot of talent as an actor anyway. What he's done with the franchise at Wrexham is superb, and having grown up literally 10 miles down the road from there, I know what it means to that little town. It has transformed them into a dead end place, right? Frankly, since the coal has gone and mining has gone to a vibrant city with a great football team on the way up.
Hey, I want to talk about a story that I put in here, Jonathan, about Netflix and all these stats that they released to the world, because the Drive to Survive stats are stunning. They're just are amazing. And I want to read you some of this. And, there were 90 million hours watched in 2023. 90 million hours of that show were watched.
That's a big number. But what am I comparing it to?
That puts them ranked about, I think it was 115th. I didn't put that in my notes, but maybe 1/10. Show number 110 on Netflix. And you think, okay, 110 is not that great. But that's out of 4,000 shows.
Yeah.
And that is just crazy. But here's some really good stats that Parent Analytics put out. They said Drive to Survive is 8.1 times the demand of the average TV series in the United States in the last 30 days.
Yep.
8.1 times. So, only 2.7% of all shows in the United States.
Here's one. 98. It's in the genre of 98.8 percentile for documentary genres.
Yeah, the percentile, 98th. Wow, that is...
Of all documentary titles in the United States, they're in the 98.8 percentage.
Wow.
That is huge. That is massive.
Aren't these just stunning? It's, there's a reason that this has just transformed the sport. I mean, virtually every person that you run into casually, if you have an F1 hat on or whatever, they're a Drive to Survive.
And who'd have thunk it? Because there was no deal with Netflix. I mean, they got permission to. I mean, what the clever part is, the really clever part that Netflix did was nobody thought about it, because Formula One in the Bernie Ecclestone era, and I know because I unfortunately had to live and bleed it.
You worked in that.
I worked in that era. It was a closed shop. You couldn't take a photograph of a Formula One car. You certainly couldn't take one in motion. Even as a even as a working for a network as I did, that had the rights to Formula One, it was very, very
'cause you
tight.
were working for ESPN, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's
Star,
crazy.
and then Star TV.
Can you
But
imagine
I
getting
know.
treated that way now?
Yeah, and also it was just the crossover between coming into social media, and he had an absolute blank. You could not put an image of an F1 car on social media. That was just a no-no. So Netflix waited for Liberty Media to get in, had their chops about them, and thought, this has never been done.
You know, I got to interview.
Yeah,
I
was
did a
there.
little presentation, right, with the head of Box to Box Films.
Yep.
I've forgotten his name; it's escaping me now.
Brian. But yes, English
anyway,
guy.
Yeah,
Yep.
and also Ian Holmes, head of rights for
Yep.
F1, and he told the story, and
Yeah.
he had the idea, all sitting there waiting, and he waited for the door to shut after Bernie left, and went immediately to Sean Bratches,
Yep.
who used to be with ESPN,
ESPN,
so
yeah.
he knew the power of the media.
Yeah.
And was working for Formula One, and Sean said, "Yes, let's do this," and the rest is history.
I mean, when you think about it now, hindsight is 20/20, as though we always love to say. But yeah, it was always a diamond in the rough, Formula One, for a much bigger audience. It was a very misogynistic sport, closed, really elite, to the point of like worse than horse racing and sailing, and frankly, Bernie didn't care what the audience was. Everybody was making money. That's all he did care about, because he drove to survive, to make all the teams rise, to be ongoing, from Frank Williams to Ron Dennis to whatever. So he built it up. He brought the commercialism into it. He got everybody rich effectively, and great job. He can walk off into the distance and be proud of what he did with a sport that was really going nowhere in the early 70s. But now Liberty Media saw the real, diamond in the rough, and said, what we have here is incredible. And Netflix has just shown it. That's all.
So listen to the audience makeup of Formula One now. 41% is female,
Yeah.
and 44% under the age of 35.
That actually is the biggest one. I mean, I knew that women would get into Formula One for the obvious reasons that, yeah, it is a soap opera at 100,000 miles an hour. I mean, let's face about it. So, a lot of women love the glitz, the glamour, and what it means, where they're going, the countries they're going to, what people are wearing, the stars that are there. It is like reading a magazine, and so therefore you don't have to be some,
and all the women are going, yeah, did you also notice there's a bunch of super fit 25-year-old
Well, I want to go there, but yeah, but what I'm getting at is it's certainly not a sport for a bunch of gearheads, is it?
Yeah. Some other crazy stats, right? I mean, the sport has now surpassed 300 corporate sponsors for the first time in its history. 300 corporate sponsors.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And these are spread out across the 10 teams, of course. But here's the stat: over half of them now are American sponsors.
Yeah, and also
McLaren has over 50 all by themselves.
And I still think that if we look back in 25 years or whatever, that gap that was filled from the tobacco money, because remember. And I remember I was living in England at the time when that ordinance came in that you could not advertise tobacco, and rightly so. But at the time, tobacco was king, and Ferrari were bankrolled by, and they still kind of are, by Philip Morris, and BAT and BAR and all that kind of stuff. So when they obviously had to disappear, or at least not as be obvious, then, what was going to fill that hole? And nobody thought it was going to be possible to fill that hole, but in comes the tech industry.
Yep.
And that is the perfect fit.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, Christian Horner said exactly that. He said that it wouldn't have been thought of previously. We brought in companies like Exxon and now Oracle and Ford. I mean, it's really just a stunning turn.
Well,
really.
You mentioned I used to work for ESPN. That used to kill us, was that there was a whisper in the paddock that until we crack the American market, we're not going to be a world championship. And the irony was we did have a lot of blue chip American companies involved in Formula One, but we never went to America properly.
They were doing what Gene Haas wanted to do. They were trying to sell their product to the rest of the world.
Yeah. and now it goes both ways. And we forget again what a catalyst Circuit of the Americas, and it doesn't, I don't think, get enough credit for its position in that changeover time of Drive to Survive, American growth, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure, and his quiet moments, Bobby goes, where's my bloody credit for this? Because they deserve it. Because they took a gamble that no one, I mean, you talk about Texas spirit being alive and kicking.
Yeah.
A Formula One circuit at a place that doesn't even follow motor racing and is known to be weird and actually known for music. And has no sport.
Texas, baby.
That's it. But has no sports franchises whatsoever except for the great U of T or UT. And of course,
TU, as some of us call it.
Okay. But,
Only the Aggies will get that joke.
Okay. But my point is, and I think UT fought quite hard not to have an Austin FC and a Bold and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But to think of a Formula One track is just mind-blowing. It blew my mind, and I was living here.
Think about these sponsors that we're talking about. Oracle and, like, for us, CrowdStrike.
Dell,
and
Cisco.
Dell. Think what Dell is on both sides of this fence, but a lot of them are not business to consumer. They're B2B. They're business to business.
Yeah.
And I think there's room for. I think you're going to start seeing some B2C companies now. I think this could keep going. And could this actually keep growing where we end up with more races? We remember they had that press conference here in Austin when I'm not sure, maybe it wasn't Austin, but they announced when Vegas was coming after Miami, and they were like, they were asking all of the team principals, how many races could you see? And there was somebody saying 5, 4, 5, 6. And we were laughing at that. But right now, I'm not sure that if you...
In America, you mean?
In America. If all of a sudden they announced there was another race coming, and it would probably be, New York or West Coast, it wouldn't surprise me. And when that happened, I didn't believe it.
Yeah, and it's cyclical too. I mean, I lived in Asia when, the Tiger Rising type thing was that the mentality and the money was swishing around in Asia, and Singapore on the rise, Malaysia wanting a name for itself on the map against Singapore, and then China and Shanghai building circuits and on and on. Now, Vietnam has one. We haven't been there yet, but this is a way of putting yourself on the map. And America is doing that now with Formula One. And, it may not be at this level for the next 20 years, but it won't, but it's certainly on the growth at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get a quick break in, and we'll have more with your Sunday Night with Speed City right after this. All right. We're still live on YouTube. Let's see what the boys are saying out there. Let's see. Joe of Oyster Bay says, I thought it was Monday. Let's see. What do we got going on? Andy P. Anything Ryan Reynolds can do for Alpine is a plus because that team needs an injection of good.
Yep. Good point. Yep. I have to say, they're the outlier to me as to what direction they're going to go in the future. They've got a decent team. They've got an old team, an established team. It's rocky at the top. I don't think they really have a strong rudder yet. They've got good investors with these sportsmen coming in. But, and actually, in a weird way, they've been mildly competitive this year. And Ocon and Gasly, on their day, are as good as anybody. And the Renault engine we don't talk about them that much, but it's not like broken down every week, is it?
It's true. When's the last time you heard anybody mention in commentary even a Renault engine? It's crazy. Not at all.
Yeah. And it's competitive in a straight line. They always say, "Oh, the Alpine's good in a straight line."
Yep. Let's see who's in there. D Nelson. Hey guys, just got off work in time to tune in. Hey D, how are you, buddy?
Hey.
D's one of
Happy
our.
Christmas.
D's been a fan a long time. He's been on Twitter with us a long, like Andy P too. David Lawrence. David, I think I found you on Twitter. I just didn't put two and two together. I was going, there's a David Lawrence on Twitter, and there's one on YouTube. He said he just got off the road. What I miss, and everybody else is filling him in. Andy P says, oh, this is great. I have a coworker whose daughter has changed her major to mechanical engineering to try to break into F1.
Yeah.
Thanks to Netflix and Drive to Survive. Yep. I completely believe that.
Yeah.
Mike Bowles is here. Corvette Mike.
Ah, good man.
Hey, you know what? All right, we're coming back.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, we haven't heard from Brad Epstein. He might have got the dates wrong, but we'll get him on if we don't get him tonight. Hey, Jonathan, did you see? I know that story, that the Toto Wolff story, the Business F1 magazine, and all that, was a crazy. It skyrocketed to the top of all the news, and then it just went away. And we talked about it last week. But I like what Fred Vasseur said. He came out.
I saw that. Yeah,
he said it was quite embarrassing for the whole sport. And
it was actually. Yep. It was actually, and it shows you. I know we have a diatribe or a back and forth about F1 business. I enjoy it because it is titillating and it is interesting.
Yeah.
And there are some good journalists involved in it, but they do push the boat, and they they are sensationalists. And if, as Vasseur says, it's all very well talking about the sport, but when you start mentioning actual personalities and accuse somebody of something because they're married and they have a connection, we'll talk about the Wolffs here. Yeah. And it is. I mean, it can't be easy for Susie Wolff. She's part of the, she's part of the middle of it. And Toto obviously is running the biggest team.
Well, and you could see how this could happen. You could, two guys sitting around with a few scotches and saying, "Well, they're married. There's no way they can have secrets."
Yeah, of course.
But here's a great. This is Medlin's story on Racer.com, and this is a quote from Frédéric Vasseur. He says, "I think all this story is quite embarrassing for the whole sport." He said, the story started with an article in a newspaper, and it says, I don't know if a newspaper is the right word, and I'm assuming that he's giving them a hard time, like I have. Because I mean, we got that magazine. It was really expensive too, and we got it. And I was reading it and then sent it to you.
It's well done,
and it is well done. But I was reading it, going, this just kind of has a slimy feel, just a little bit for me as an American.
Well, when the headline or the cover says, here are the greatest rascals of Formula One, and Tom Walkinshaw's the biggest villains of Formula One, and it talks about all the underdealings and which come on, is true.
Yes.
Formula One has that. It's not all roses. It's cutthroat. It is a shark tank. It's a piranha's pool, as Ron Dennis once said. But there's got to be. If you send, I mean, I tell you what, in England that we have about 6 what we call red letterheads, which means tabloid newspapers. So you go to a newsagents in England, and I mean, you wouldn't believe. You think the National Enquirer is bad? We have national newspapers who are telling the news, and it's shock, horror, gasp. Boris Johnson in Sex Fest.
Yeah,
and
we're not going to go down that path because that's a whole nother show and a whole nother mess. In my opinion.
Beeswax. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Brilliant. Yeah. Casey's hovering over the beat button now.
Hey, Johnny Green, do you have any of those? I know we're just kind of literally producing live on the air, but we had some. I got down the YouTube path today on ePartrade, and I found myself watching a 20-minute show about wastegates and blow-off valves because the ePartrade thing is so good. They have that every year, and I know we've got a couple of clips. Are there any of those that you think we ought to thinking about playing tonight?
Not expressly. I really enjoyed the one we clipped out the other day. The young lady from Vegas.
Yep, and also Rahal.
Yes,
I know what I was thinking about this a while ago when we were talking.
Well, you've got him.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at him here in just a second. But Rahal talked about the way he talked. He said, whenever I have a thought about getting into F1, I go lay down and try to make that thought go away.
Ganassi, yeah.
But he trashed the sport a little bit. He tried to give him a backhanded compliment by saying, "Oh, the technology is great, the cars are great, but the racing is crap." And the things he was saying were, I mean, the racing is not as good as Indy, and there's things that you and I don't like DRS, used to sleep, but it felt like he was looking at F1 10 years ago is what it felt like to me. But I don't know. What do you think about what he said about F1?
I thought it was a really good comment. He basically said, as we played, that he said that no, he doesn't have any desire to go into Formula One, and he thinks that Formula One is quite happy to take the commercialism and with all of the blue chip companies that obviously exist here, but isn't welcoming of an American team, which I do think is wrong. And especially, to be honest, it's almost out of date too, because when you actually look at Formula One, most of it is American now.
Yeah,
from team managers.
that was my point. It's like, let's not forget that it's American owned, and we now have 3 races, if not more, in the future. And just there's way more American involvement now. I know that we're sitting here on the fence with Andretti, and I think that is easily part of this. But I'd also hate to be, you hate to rush into it with Formula One. Look what they've done by delaying it, right?
Yeah.
Because Andretti was basically saying, hey, I'm Andretti, let me in. And I get that, because that's exactly the way I felt. You're crazy. You could probably pull a clip from me saying they'd be crazy to not let Andretti in. And that was before he decided to team up with General Motors. And then they said, it's just going to be a badge on the car. And then General Motors steps in and says,
we're going to be an OEM.
We're going to be a power unit supplier.
Yep.
It's like, boom, what else do you want? Is there anything else you need? I'll go ahead and get it.
And by the way, that's huge, because Audi haven't said, we're going to supply lots of teams. I mean, GM are almost, they're almost saying, hey, we could be not only supplying Andretti, but we might venture out further on down the road. And if the engine's successful and Andretti are successful with it, then there could be other teams like a McLaren or a Alpine who take them as a customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they become like the next Honda in Formula One.
Let's see what else, Greeny. We do have, Casey does have those clips. If there's one that you,
I was going to say Newey and Rahal relationship. I'm fascinated by how Newey got his start. And it's our buddy Medlin that did the interview. But talking about how they came together back in the early '80s, I just thought that was interesting. If you're looking for one,
you see that one, Casey? Yeah, he's got it. So
all right,
he'll give it to us.
So
here.
basically, let's just set this up. They interviewed both Bobby Rahal and Adrian Newey, and we spent a lot of time in Formula One talking about Adrian Newey and his brilliance. But where did it all start for him? He graduated. Funnily enough, his dissertation was on ground effects, ironically. So he's the man
awesome.
for the day right now. But his first venture into high-end motorsport was with Bobby Rahal. So,
well, let's hear it.
It's great to have you both together for this one, because obviously you go way back. And Adrian, if I start with you, can you just explain to anyone who's joining us for this webinar your relationship with Bobby and kind of where it started?
Crikey. Well, that was really back when I was at March, which was run by a guy, Robin Hurd, the owner of the company. And it made production cars for various series, including Champ Car, as it was then, or Kart. And he started a program of effectively rent an engineer from March out to the teams. And so after my year in IMSA GTP in '83, then Robin put me onto that sort of engineer for hire program, placed me at True Sports with Steve Horn. Bobby, of course, was the driver, and that's where it all started from.
And Bobby, what do you remember at that time? Getting Adrian dropped on you, I guess.
Well, I mean, Adrian was quite young, younger than I. I think I was 29, or no, I was probably 30 or 31 at the time, because I started IndyCar racing at 29. But which was young in those days, based on when you could start driving in the U.S. But Adrian came to us in '84, as he said, and we were a small team that had some success, but the '82 season had been pretty good. '83 was okay, but we wanted better. And Jim Truman, who owned the team, had developed a relationship with Robin Hurd, and we managed to sign an agreement. I remember signing it at Phoenix prior to the race weekend that year in '83, and we I don't know if we quite knew who we were getting, but we got Adrian. Of course, he had spent some time over here because of the GTP program, but Adrian came and lived in Columbus with us, and again, it was a pretty tight knit small team, which was maybe good for all of us, because we had to work very closely together. And Adrian was is just the relationship that I built that we built together, working together. In those days, you didn't really have data acquisition. You didn't have, multiple engineers. You didn't have, 50 people back at the factory looking at video and what have you. It was you and your engineer, and that was about it. And so Adrian and I, we would go out to dinner a lot. Because he was alone a lot of the time, and we just developed this relationship and the communication. I think that I dare say that in some respects that probably it was better than I had with my wife in terms of communication.
Yeah.
I would, Adrian would answer a question that I'd yet to complete. It was just there was that connection, and there's no doubt about it that I think that had a lot to do with why we were as successful as we were.
Yeah, no, I mean, what Bobby missed out there was that I'd done a year of race engineering in F2, and a little bit in the GTP series the previous year, but certainly I was kind of quite wet behind the ears as a race engineer. And so it was quite in the deep end, joining an IndyCar team. And Bobby was incredibly patient with me, because I remember the first test was at the Short Oval at Phoenix, the 1 mile oval, and kind of looking at the car, and those cars kind of looked as if the accident had already happened, as far as I could see. It was much just kind of all the wheels are at different camber angles. You had the tilt, you had this thing called stagger, all a complete new learning curve for me. And so it obviously took me a little bit of time to get up to speed with that, but Bobby was very patient while I tried to learn my trade, and as Bobby just said, we very quickly built up a very strong bond as a friendship and professionally. Kind of, sorry, phone's making a silly noise. Kind of, and then going out in the evenings discussing the car. Every sort of Friday evening of a race weekend, Saturday evening would always be dinner with Bobby and myself and whoever was around, to discuss the car and what we're going to do for the following day and so forth. And so we really did form a very tight bond. It was, I can honestly say that it was kind of, in terms of the relationship between driver and race engineer, then my relationship with Bobby was one of the ones that I feel kind of has been the strongest that I've enjoyed. It was it is almost to go straight in like that, and be so lucky to work with somebody like Bobby was incredibly unfortunate, and really kind of set me up very well for my career onwards from after that.
Anytime we can have Adrian Newey on the show, we should do it.
Well, I just think that, I think a lot of our regular listeners, like I, have been fascinated by his career. He's got a great book about how to build a racing car. But we always put all the credit on the drivers, and Verstappen is without doubt the greatest driver right now. But the reason he has achieved 19 out of 22 is because he's driving the best car. And the best car was once with McLaren, designed by Adrian Newey, was once with Williams, designed by Adrian Newey, and now is with Red Bull. So if you really want to see where the success of Formula One has been, it's with that man.
All right, let's get our last break in. And when we come back, I have a really cool story that hit that reminded me of the Mercedes DAS, that dual axis steering.
DAS is good, you remember.
All right, we'll be back after these messages. Okay, we're hot on the stream. There's lots of good stuff I want to talk about.
Why do you want to talk about DAS?
DAS
is good, by the way.
Well, DAS is good, but we'll talk about it when we come back, because Joe of Oyster Bay said exactly what you said. This was playing. We were talking in the studio, and Jonathan goes, God, our audience just got to eat this up.
Oh, okay. He loved it.
And Joe Oyster Bay says, this is cool AF.
Oh, yeah.
Cool as
But I really do think that, and I think it should get everybody to go to ePartrade and listen to.
Yes.
And by the way, Steve Phelps from NASCAR, Mark Miles.
Have you guys gone to the ePartrade YouTube channel. Go check it out because
Yeah.
they broke the whole.
It was a
thing
racing
down.
industry. I mean, just
Yeah.
before PRI, which is the physical racing industry get together, if you will. But it's in its fourth year, and in fact, all the interviews are on there, all 4 years. And it basically talks to the movers and shakers of all of motorsport in America.
If I have
If not the
5 minutes, it's actually I've tried for 5 minutes. I'm trying to find the clip. We're coming back.
This is David Hobbs, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Haven't heard the
old
David
schmozzle?
Hobbs, the schmozzle in a while. Andy, I'm talking to the guys on YouTube still. Andy P says I'm a YouTube subscriber of the ePart Trade channel. There is a
good.
ton on that channel.
Good,
Everybody's watching.
Yeah, I
that,
figured
and
that's the kind of guy I'd expect to have tuned in.
Yeah.
And what I love is that they have stuff that I may not on, but I learn a lot about World Rally and their intentions. They really did go to town on getting some really interesting folk from different areas. Some, you may not interest you at all. There was NHRA stuff that I had no interest in because there's only so much.
Dude, I got in the rabbit hole watching YouTube on wastegates. I could easily get into a NHRA rabbit hole.
Well, one I found today was on TRD, which is the Toyota Racing Development, and it's the head of the USA's TRD. Now, I come across that with obviously Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand, but also it's a part of NASCAR, and some of our young kids in Trans Am are now part of that scene. So I want to learn about that. So I highly, tell people go and have a look at that.
Okay, you remember before the break I was talking about Das ist gut, the dual axis steering that Mercedes had for just that 1 year. So I guess it was Car and Driver. It hit my Twitter feed, and the headline says, let me scroll back up, Lamborghini developing active camber and tow control to improve handling.
Yeah.
And that's what the dual axis was.
Basically was, yeah.
And so
is it banned for good?
I don't know. I mean, it was banned, so I'm not sure saying they're
bloody brilliant idea.
I know. Well, what was
just
brilliant
explain,
about it?
Just explain it.
Was the simplicity where all Lewis Hamilton did was pull on the steering, and it changed the
camber of the wheels.
The camber of the wheels.
It goes back to what Adrian Newey was just saying.
Yeah.
It's
So on the straightaway, you want
pull
them
it in
straight up because you want no drag. You want the wheels. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're just listening. You want the wheels straight up and down because there's no drag that way. But in the corners, you want tops tilted in a little bit.
Yep.
Gives you a more stable platform, just like if you spread your feet, right?
Yep.
And it was all done with mechanical. There was no hydraulics.
That's
he
incredible.
Literally just pulled the steering wheel back. Well, apparently Lamborghini is talking about doing this, but I don't think it's just pulling the steering wheel. In fact, they're showing clutches.
Don't tell Elon Musk they'll have another recall.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I've been reading more about the technology that's in that Cybertruck, the 48-volt system, the drive-by, the steer-by-wire,
The bulletproof, not bulletproof windows.
You know what? I don't care anything about people's politics, which is what.
I wasn't political.
You're not. Well, then you're the only one because the rest of the world has decided they're going to buy their cars based on politics. But I'm just looking at the technology in that thing. It is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, I'm just having fun with the fact that if you remember at the launch, it said it had bulletproof windows, which is it's made in Texas, so that makes a lot of sense to me. But when they showed it off and said, "Look, it's bulletproof," and they slammed it with a sledgehammer, and it went straight through.
Yeah. Well, if you are a geek and you want to dig into some amazing car technology. Watch some. The best one I saw was the Haggerty. What's the guy's name? I'm drawing a blank now. But Haggerty has a new channel, and it's kind of like the Car Wow channel where he talks. He talks all about cars, and then it's just brought to you by Car Wow. But it was Jason, I think is his name. But it was a fantastic assessment, and he was like, I was ready to go in and hate the Cybertruck because it's crazy looking, it's kind of ugly, and they could have just taken the trucks in after they showed it to the world 4 years ago
and then made a normal
throw
truck.
it on a Model S and you're done.
Yeah.
But they completely, Jonathan, the automotive industry has been trying to go to 48 volts since 1970 or 80 something.
Don't tell me the reason. Why is that a golden?
It's really simple. It's crazy simple.
What does it mean then?
Cars have been 12 volts since 1952. right?
Oh, I see. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
The base system, not the drive, what drives the wheel.
Yeah, just the battery.
They went to 800 volts on that. But the battery stuff, it's 48 volts. So when you go to 48 volts, you can reduce the amperage of
I'd struggle with 33 1/3. And that's because I had a single on it.
Yeah. So long story short is that it's way more efficient. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do with higher voltage that you can't do with 12 volts. But the biggest thing they can do is it's more efficient, and they can use less amount of wiring, a lot. And in addition to adding 48 volts, which is the industry's been trying to do forever, they went to 800 volts, which some of the other electric cars have gone to. But drawing a blank on the last one I was thinking of. But there's just, it's not. There's a reason that it took 4 years because they're revolutionary changes.
Yeah, I also think that living here in Austin and to see something like that by a man, like you say, politically or unpolitically correct as he is, Mr. Musk, building that here in little old Austin, Texas, it just shows you how much this city has changed and how much Central Texas has changed in that time, from Formula One to Elon Musk to the tech company. I think, it's an exciting time when you see one of those on the road and go, yeah, that's built in my hometown.
I know.
Right
that is
by
cool.
the airport.
Yeah, it is cool.
And in fact, I tell you what really hit it. I flew in to Austin one time this year, and I flew right over the new factory where they're building those. I've never seen anything like it. It's like 10 football fields.
It's insane. The reason they called it the Gigafactory because it was just crazy.
Amazing.
I keep thinking that Musk might try to do something with F1 because you remember he tweeted.
He goes to a lot of. He was at Miami.
Yeah, he does. That's right. I wondered if he might
Vegas.
try to do some sort of sponsorship or whatever. Hint, hint. Wink, wink. Nudge,
wink,
nudge.
wink. Yeah,
we could get.
Maybe he'll buy Alpine. Maybe he'll sell. He'll get the Haas team.
Hey, you brought up something while
Elon Musk.
Elon, while the E-Part thing was playing about females. We were talking about the audience.
41%.
41%.
That is insane.
But But your point is that there's a massive sponsorship opportunity. Yes.
Don't say anybody. It's our idea.
Let's see. How many people are watching on YouTube right now? There's 9 people, John.
Don't tell Andy P. He'll be on it.
Yeah, Andy P.
He knows how to put lipstick on a pig. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a huge opportunity.
You've been saying that.
I've been saying that since I was in shorts. That the opportunity of marketing to female-only products, or at least female-oriented products, from shampoo to fashion to whatever it might be, is there for the taking for any sport, actually. Because soccer, for example,
we could take off our hats and be shampoo spokespeople.
Fine with that. But no, I mean, what I'm getting at is it has not made any. No one has really dipped their, foot in this yet.
Yeah.
And I think with the F1 Academy, and I think with the proliferation of more women in motorsport, it's going to come. And it, hail to the ones that really get it right first time. And we do have the L'Oreal huge, massive sponsorship or whatever it might be. So watch this space. Yves Saint Laurent on the Haas grid.
Did you see that Red Bull did a pit stop in
2.8?
Complete darkness? They did it was just kind of a fun thing for the team to do, but they did it in complete darkness, and it was 2.8 seconds. That is crazy. They you can look it up on their website, and I think motorsport.com had it too. But I thought that was a cool. They showed the full video of them doing it, the muscle memory. And those guys did it in 2.8 seconds.
I mean, they've kind of got to do it because, it's so quick that if you don't, your muscle memory has to be automatic. It has to be. So,
yeah, I thought that was cool.
Murphy's on his hind legs. He's trying to get in on the final show of the year.
He's looking at. I think Jonathan's giant black lab. In case you're on the radio, and he's staring deep into your eyes.
This is his way.
Does he know what's happening tomorrow? Is that why he's looking at you?
He's like one of those great girlfriends that just looks into your eyes and you go, okay.
If you just had a mate that looked at you like the way Jonathan's dog is looking at him now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are out of time, boys and girls. Thanks, everybody. Let me check last look at YouTube. Yeah, D gets it. 48 volts is a huge change.
Yep.
Yep.
I get it now, what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And the steering by wire is even bigger. That's just crazy.
I can see that being more of a road car thing than a racing thing, because it is an extra thing that could go wrong, and if it went wrong, would be a problem. But if it's developed by the car industry, There's no especially at the high end, the exotic end, where it would be not that many units either.
Yeah. Well, the airlines have been doing it since the 80s.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They fly by wire. So
yeah, exactly.
Mike Bowles says, great show. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in.
How long we got?
About 10 seconds.
Hey, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And please give us ideas what you want to hear from and what you want us to talk about, because we're really loving the fact that you come back every week.
Yep. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.